We'll start off here with Chris Gardner, please, from Houston Roundball Review. Chris, go ahead with your question for Coach.
Coach, what does SMU do well, and who are some of the players to watch for the Mustangs?
I think they're the best offensive team in this league because they've got the best point guard in the league. Is Kendric Davis. Everything starts with him. He's outstanding. He's shooting, I think, over 50% from the 40% from the 3. Make sure I got my numbers right. Yeah, he's shooting 52% from the field, 48% from the 3, and 88% from the free throw line. And he's got 43 assists and 10 turnovers. He's one of the best point guards in the nation. He's outstanding. If I would say who's the best player in this league right now, I'd have a hard time finding somebody better than him. Then around him, getting the transfer kid from SMU eligible, I think was huge for them because he's averaging 4 blocks a game. The Jaguar kid, I just think is a good player. You know, he's been there 4 years, knows their system. Ron Hunt. I mean, they start 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", and then when the Nate comes in, he's 7'1", so they have great size, athletic. Bandamel and McNeil give them 2 shooters, which is critical for Davis because he's such an outstanding passer. They're great in transition, really fast, athletic, and there's a reason they're undefeated. I mean, I think they're really good team.
All right, we'll go to Mark Berman, Fox 26. Mark, go ahead, please.
Kelvin, with so many road games in such a short amount of time, do you have much time to really work on anything to get better at stuff that you want to get better at, like from your previous game?
Well, here's our problem with the game having to put it on the 26 is the COVID thing. You know, we just couldn't do anything about. You know, Marcus and Caleb, those kids were out 11 days. When you include the 11th day, they had to go take a myocarditis test, and you know, so those guys had to play 3 games in 7 days. That's not ideal. If you're in tip-top shape, great shape, 3 games, 7 days, it's a tough deal, especially in conference. I think it was Temple Central Florida, Tulsa. The Tulsa deal being the 3rd one. Caleb, and then the other 3 guys were Bryson, Tremont, and J1. But, you know, COVID affects being around these kids every day and watching them. COVID affects them all differently. I think the guy that it affected the most was Tremont. I could tell in shoot around the day we played Tulsa that we were not going to have him. He was just, there was no way he could play. So he was out. You know, when you think Lamar, Boise State, Texas Tech, South Carolina, you know, probably our 2 best guards in that stretch, or our 3 best guards in that stretch was Tremont, Quentin, and Marcus. So now Marcus, you know, the other night that was a tough deal for him. Don't have Tremont. You know, Quentin has a tough shooting night. All those things factored in. You know, it was a tough day at the ranch. You know, but I was proud of our kids. You know, losing doesn't bother me as long as I know we competed and played hard. Because some nights the ball's not going to go in. You know, I don't overreact to that stuff. You know, when you lose a game, people that have an overinflated perception of who you are or how good you are, usually the ones that are disappointed the most. But that's their fault. That's not our fault. I mean, nobody around here is talking about that we're a great team. We didn't ask people to rank us that high. That's just the way it is sometimes. But when you lose, the same thing applies. You're not nearly as bad as some people may think you are. We're probably somewhere in the middle. We got a good team. Because we lost the other night doesn't change that. And had we won, you're sitting here 8-0. People think you're actually better than that. So there's a lesson in perspective with college sports, football teams, especially football and basketball, the most visible ones. You're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. I had an old athletic director teach me that, and I've told my assistant coaches, never lose sight of that. When you guys become head coaches, when you get in your 60s and 70s, stuff people say really doesn't matter anymore. But when you're young, it will. Young coaches will listen to stuff a little more than I would probably. But that's something that they have to remember. You're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are. Just when you lose a game, that happens. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. Our biggest thing is getting our guys healthy. That's my concern. I'm not concerned about our defense or our offense. I'm not concerned about any of that. My biggest concern is getting Marcus back 100%, Tremont 100%, Caleb. Those three guys, if we don't have those three guys, we're going to struggle to score against anybody. But now if we got those three guys healthy, there's a reason why there's 355 teams in America. I think we're ranked 12th in the nation on offense. And I think we're ranked 14th on defense. That's pretty good. If you're ranked 12th in the nation, that means you got a pretty good offense. And that's what we were prior to the Tulsa game. So for us, our biggest concern, the thing that we're working on, like yesterday was a complete day off, and we needed it. That was a hard stretch. We played the 20th, 22nd, 26th, 29th. College teams don't do that. But we did. But with COVID, everybody's probably going to have to sacrifice some, make some adjustments, and along the way, there's probably going to be some kind of fallout from it. But I told our guys the other night, as poorly as we played, to have a 1-point lead with 6 minutes to go was a testament to the kids that could play. It was a testament to their heart and their character. Because usually when teams play as poorly as we did, they usually get beat pretty good. And if we could have got back and matched up a little bit quicker, who knows? But we didn't, and we lost the game. But we need to get Marcus rested and healthy, Caleb rested and healthy, and Tremont especially. He was completely out of it that whole trip. So I like our team. I have a lot of respect for Frank Haith as a coach. They're tough. Tulsa's a tough team. I don't know if they're going to go undefeated at home. I don't know if anybody is in this year, but they'll be a tough out for just about everybody. And that at home, just because of their toughness, and they play the right way. I like their senior. They got older guys that are seniors. Joyner's a senior, Rochelle's a senior, Jackson's a senior. Those three guys, those three seniors they had were really tough the other night.
Kelvin, do you think that Tremont and Caleb, for that matter, too, will be where you want them to be for SMU, or is it too soon to tell?
No, of course not. Of course not. It takes a while, unless you've had it. You don't know what you don't know. Unless you've had it, you won't know. No, of course not. We're not going to be 100%. It takes a while, but it's not woe is me. I don't care about none of that stuff. My most important thing is I have a responsibility to Marcus and his mother and father. One of the things that I struggled with the other night was how much I had to play him, but that gave us our best chance to win. Marcus played way too many minutes, and so did Quentin. Those guys needed to rest. But those two guys were our best scorers. Now, unfortunately for us, they had off shooting nights. But those two guys just played way too many minutes. And of course, Marcus with 3 games in 7 days that's not his fault. But that's the way it goes. You're gonna have games like that. Great win for Tulsa though, and for us, we just get back, get our kids as much rest and just kind of nurture them along. You know, we got another game on Sunday, and then we come back home and we have a nice homestand.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Greg Bailey from KTRK. Greg, go ahead, please.
Kelvin, you're trying to kind of touching on something with all of this stuff here. How in the world do you balance this, trying to get your guys the rest that they need with perhaps ramping them up to get them in what I would call basketball shape, if that's the proper term?
Yeah, you know, that's something that we struggle with too as coaches, Greg, because I don't have any experience in this. I have to lean on our medical people. I ask them questions. You know, I have a lot of confidence in our trainer, John Houston. You know, he spends as much time around our kids as we do. And he knows this pandemic thing back and forth. The kid from Florida, what happened to the kid from Florida, I think, threw a lot of kids for a loop. I think it's put us back on our heels a little bit. So, I mean, for us, you know, we're in a COVID world, you know, people outside our world, you know, judge us like everything's normal. It's not normal. You know, not every team in America had 15 kids test positive. You know, I mean, that's our world. And we're having to deal with that world. I've never done this before, you know. The worst thing possible for us was having, you know, as many kids test positive in a short amount of time. You know, we go on pause. You know, the last time we practiced with our team together was November 28th. That was the day before Texas Tech. Since then, we've been scattered. You know, we had everybody available for 1 half against Texas Tech, and then Caleb went down the second half. That wasn't COVID, that was his ankle. And then after that, it's been sporadic. But, you know, this isn't woe is me. A lot of teams are dealing with this. A lot of teams. This is a COVID year. You know, you're just having to figure out, you know, how much can he practice? Can he practice? Should he practice? You know, we have the conversation with probably about 8 kids every day. We've got 6 or 7 that are rocks. Then we have about 7 or 8 that, you know, we're just trying to, you know, get them to the game as healthy as we can. The guy but I knew Tremont could not play the other night. And obviously, as a coach, you like to have all your bullets. But sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. That's the way it goes.
Hey, Kelvin, if I could follow up real quick, just how specific are you guys able to get? I don't know if you guys do heart monitors, GPS trackers, those kind of things to decide who's capable of going and not.
No, we don't have access to that. I'm assuming you're piggybacking on what the NBA is doing, right?
Yeah, Coach, just that, and you know, that became prevalent through our coverage of the NFL even a couple of years ago. But I just don't know what college programs have access to.
Yeah, we don't. I don't know what other programs do, Greg, but we're not one of them. But for instance, today is what is today? Thursday. Like the kids that have to test, like I tested today. We have, you know, today was a test day. Today's Thursday. I'm sure we'll test again tomorrow or Saturday. We always test 2 or 3 times before each game, based on how much the length of time between each game, how many days we have between games. But you know, everything revolves around those tests. You know, it may come back where we have some kids that had tested out of testing. It doesn't sound right, does it? They tested out of testing, but now they're back into the testing, and now we have some kids that recently tested positive that are not being tested. So just because you've tested positive doesn't mean you still aren't, that you still can't be tested. So we've got some guys that tested positive this summer and in the fall that are back in testing protocol. And then we have some kids that aren't being tested, same with our coaches. So, it's back and forth. I mean, we got hit pretty hard and we're still trying to climb our way out of it right now. But hopefully eventually we will.
All right, we'll go to Joseph Duarte with the Chronicle. Joseph, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Coach. We're a few hours away from the new, well, not a few hours, but enough hours from the new year. I'm just curious, when you look at the unprecedented of what we've dealt with this year, just kind of what you're hopeful or what you're looking towards for the new year with your team, and of course that probably includes everything else that's going on in the world as well.
Well, when you put it in that perspective, the team is far down the list. When you think about, all we know is what we read, and I know that what I read that the virus. If you have a pandemic, then there's always going to be a starting point for a virus, right? I mean, that's just common sense, and we know it started somewhere in China, but the next one could start here. So, you don't point the finger at anybody. It's not like somebody trying to start a virus. It happens. I think how you react to it is more important than blaming somebody. But that's, that's, to me, that's called leadership. Just world health, world peace. With the social injustices and the BLM movement, just our world continue to work toward eradicating racism. I think that's the thing that bothers me the most is the, racist people don't like to hear about racism, and they don't want to see anybody else talk about it either because it makes them uncomfortable. Well, those conversations still need to be held, and for those people that don't like it, that maybe they need to be a little bit more introspective, but just the eradication of racism, understanding that we're all the same. God made us all the same. Everybody deserves the same opportunities. All the social and racial injustices in this country and dealing with these health issues. Those are the things I care about the most. I'd like for us to continue to grow as a basketball team on and off the court. Our kids are in a critical part of their lives, and more so than any era or any team that I've coached in. There's so many life lessons that have been learned in 2020. For all the challenges and problems that it created, there was also so many opportunities to grow and learn. And I hope that we all took advantage of them, because I think this will make us appreciate when things do go good, because we've had the foundation, the background of dealing with so many tragedies and trauma. But just try to be respectful of one another. Understand that we're all the same. Those are the things that I think about.
All right, I'll go back to Greg Bailey with Channel 13. Greg, another question, please.
Coach, you touched on something I thought was really important there. You said that Keontae Johnson at Florida and what he went through your kids for a loop. What'd you have to kind of help your players through that, seeing that in those very stark images, and kind of understand what needs to happen going forward?
Well, I think it through all of college basketball and probably all of college athletics, football, baseball, women's sports, men's sports, everybody. Because the one thing that our kids do, and I think now we understand the importance of it, is once you test positive, you are isolated for 10 days. That means that if you're in an apartment, that means you cannot leave your apartment and be around other people. You're by yourself for 10 days. That's hard. That means you don't go out and run the stairs or run a mile or shoot a basketball. You don't touch a basketball for 10 days. Now look at Marcus Sasser, 3 games in 7 days. He didn't touch a basketball for 10 days. Think about that. You know, some guys have off shooting nights and they shoot 500 shots a day for 10 straight days. Doesn't guarantee you're going to make a shot. But when you don't touch a ball for 10 days and come back and play 3 games in 7 days, that's tough. But I think the kid from Florida, what he did was bring into focus the importance on the 11th day, the day after your 10th day, before you're cleared to come back to play, you have to have a myocarditis test. And the importance of that test is to ascertain the strength of your heart. Is your heart in good enough shape to come back and handle college athletics? So people were wondering why, and I think that had a lot to do with why the Big Ten shut down football early, is because they were getting reports about the impact or the effects of myocarditis. So when that happened to the kid from Florida, there's just a perspective. There's a perspective involved there, but there's also realize the importance of science and the importance of doctors and listening to doctors and paying attention to, you know, for coaches, winning is secondary right now. You know, when you have 15 guys get tested that have tested positive, and then you're in increments, you've got 3 back, and then 2 days later you get 3 more, and then you look up and you've got what was 20th, 22nd, 26th, 20. You have 4 games in 9 days, I think, 3 and 7. Not ideal situation, but you realize that when the kid from Florida went down, it just brings back into focus how precious these kids' lives are, and how important it is what we're doing is to their parents. Because these parents check. You know, we have real conversations about what are you doing? You know, what are your protocols? And we have to make sure and that they're comfortable. Well, most of you guys are fathers. You know, it's not like we're isolated over here. You're fathers. If your father was on my team, you would want to know when that happened to that kid from Florida, that scared a lot of parents. Forget coaches, parents. That scared them, scared me. You know, Florida just shut down, and now they're coming back. So everybody's either going to be paused and coming back, or playing and then paused and coming back at some point. It's going to hit everybody. And if it hasn't hit you, buckle up. It's coming. This thing's not over. You know, I'm reading the reports. I know what's out there. We don't know what's going to happen next week. You know, last night, we just left Orlando. We played so many games in so few days, it just runs together. But we were in Orlando Christmas Day. You know, we flew to Orlando at 10 o'clock in the morning. Our kids were here at 9 o'clock Christmas Day. I think our plane left at 10 o'clock. We have to go, you know, when you fly, that's the first time we flew since Connecticut. First time I was in a plane since Connecticut, and that was last March. You look up the date whenever we played at Connecticut. I hadn't been on a plane. Security's different. And you know, it's not security anymore, it's an inspection. And it should be. No complaints. They're doing the right thing. But it takes a long time now. They go through a lot of protocols for you before you get on a plane. So we just left Orlando. So Tulane's in Orlando yesterday. They got there the day before. Their game got canceled at 4:30 the day of the game. Think about that. The game was at 7 o'clock last night. That game got canceled at 4:30. That can happen to any of us at any time. You know, that's why this is a different year. It's unlike any of us have ever seen.
We'll go back to Joseph Martin. Joseph, go ahead.
Kelvin, I did want to ask you, here in Houston, I'm not sure if you got it yesterday, but a lot was made of the alert that went out
Yeah.
where it suggested, to not do anything or large gatherings. With basketball in mind, have you had any discussions, or are you getting any indication of with the surges in different parts of the country of what this coming, part of the season will look like, or is it very much like you said, nobody knows?
Yeah, you guys are not only asking really good questions, you're asking important questions, because now you're kind of seeing what we're dealing with as coaches. Coaching basketball is just kind of part of it now. Used to be it's all you focused on. As soon as I got out of my truck this morning, the first thing I did was meet with John Houston, because our kids were completely, some of them were just physically spent. When we got back here about 2:00 in the morning, the game wasn't until 8, and it started, and there was a delay in the game. I think, I can't remember who played before us, so our game didn't start at 8. It started like 8:15 or 8:20, something like that. So the first thing I did when I got in here was we had our COVID discussions. Who's back into testing protocol, who's out of it, how our guys were yesterday. He gave me, I think there was 8 kids that I have to get a report on every day just to see if they can practice. And if they're cleared to practice, what's your recommendations? Here's what I think he's going to be able to do, but we need to go easy on him. And that's a tough way for that kid to get through the season, because now he's not preparing the right way for him to succeed. But so be it. Like you said, Joseph, I got that alert. I was sitting right there in my conference room watching film when I got it. I was in there with Kelvin and another coach. Quanis, I think, was in there with me. And all three of us have, what do you call these watches? What do you call that kind of watch?
The Apple Watch.
Yeah, the Apple. We have that Apple Watch. So all three of our watches started buzzing at the same time. And I think those guys had their phones, and their phones was buzzing. We looked down and we saw the sign, and we read it. So as soon as my first thought was, if we were playing tomorrow night, it might get canceled. That's how tenuous all this stuff is. But I think that if I read it right, it was in Harris County. So we'll see. Our school's pretty good about handling this and doing it the right way. Our testing protocols here are very strict, very specific, and we make sure we encourage our family. We make sure we educate our families on how well their sons are being taken care of.
All right, everyone, we got time for one more question with Coach. We'll go to James Mueller with the Cougar. James, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Coach, a little while ago, you mentioned how the 10-day quarantine is, physically and mentally draining. Can you just talk about some of the stuff you've done to just look after your players' mental health? You've talked about the physical side of things, but just making sure that is right, and just with everything going on.
Yeah, that's a great question, James. It really is. I worry about that. When a kid's in quarantine, I don't text him. I call him. I talk to him just about every day. For instance, last night, I probably had a 30-minute conversation with Tremont, because I'm worried about him. Not from a basketball standpoint, I'm worried about him because he's a freshman and he's isolated, and I have a great strength and conditioning coach. He's outstanding because he's also a certified nutritionist. So we provide these kids with 3 hot meals a day. We meet as a staff. We call them at least twice a day. Our players have a what do you call it when everybody's on the text thing together and they talk to each other constantly by text. So those are the things we're doing. We have counseling here in the athletic department. The teams don't have counseling per se, but we do as an athletic department. So we just monitor our guys. I go 10 days without seeing them. They go 10 days without seeing their teammates. You know, they FaceTime each other. We FaceTime. So I think the best thing we can do is communicate with them, make sure that they're still connected to us. You know, we talk about different things. We send film to them on their phones. We send like the first, you know, we send like the first 3 or 4 games so they can watch game film. You know, we send some of them even practice film, different things that we're always doing just to just think outside the box. Because this just isn't one of these things that you have experience with. And if we're making mistakes, then we want to correct them. You know, find out what other teams are doing. Try to learn from other people. You know, I think in this community of athletics, no matter what sport it is, we're all having to deal with it. And I think the communication, like I talk to other coaches, what are you guys doing? They call me, what are you doing? You know, we're all trying to figure out how to help these kids and how to navigate through. You know, there's a huge difference in football and basketball, and that we cross semesters. Football is a 1 semester sport. They start in August and are usually done in December. So that's for 1 semester. You know, once you get, you know, for us, you know, it's not anybody's fault, but, you know, wishing me a great holiday season, or I hope you guys enjoy your break. You know, it's a little bit naive to think that we have holidays or that we have a break. You know, we played a game on the 20th, the 22nd, the 26th, 29th, and now we got one on the 3rd. You know, there's no difference in December for us than January or November. It's the next month. You know, Thanksgiving Day, we're either playing or practicing. Christmas Day, we're either playing or practicing. Last year, we were in Hawaii playing 3 games. I think we played the 22nd, 23rd, 25th. When the game was over on the 21st, we came home and played on the 28th or 29th. This year, 20th, 22nd, 26th, 29th. The difference is COVID. You know, and having so many guys out has been a challenge, but I think it's something that you just learn to deal with it. You don't stick your head in the sand and hope it goes away. That's for sure. You know, we have a tremendous responsibility, and you know, Greg, you bring up great points. Joseph and James, you may have brought up the most important one, dealing with the mental part. That's something that we're dealing with now. I can't get specific or talk about any of our kids that way. I'm not going to do that, but that's a big part of it, and that's. You know, if it affects the coach, if it affects the players, it affects the team. And you're not going to be the same when you have those kind of issues, because you're always trying to deal around them. But we're not unique. Everybody's having to deal with those. The teams that aren't, God bless them. I hope it continues.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Coach, if you'll hang tight, we'll get